Hey everyone, it's Anne Manera, and today we are working on another color along from Color Along Volume 18 Variety Coloring Book. And this morning's color along is one that has me super excited because this morning we are working on a technique called Sepia. And we're going to be working on this page from this coloring book, which is this mandala that can also be found in my coloring book, Dazzling Mandalas, available on Amazon or on my website. You can find links to everything that we're working on today over in the description of this video. So the first thing we want to talk about is the product that we're using today. So I am using, and you can use any brand of anything, but for this color along, I'm using these Derwent Drawing Pencils. Now, I'm going to say right at the outset here that these are a little pricey. So if you have just brown tones of colored pencils or markers or even gel pens, this is something that you can, this technique can be done with any type of any medium that is in the brown family. So the whole point of today's color along is all about the sepia technique and using just these different browns. The Derwent Drawing Pencils are a little bit different than a regular colored pencil in that they're not very, they're a little waxier and they don't really blend very well like a colored pencil would blend. You can even tell the lead is a little harder than a typical colored pencil, and they're not really considered a colored pencil. They're more considered for drawing. So a lot of people use them for drawing maybe a human figure, that type of thing. So, and a lot of it comes from the color that is being used, which is, especially this one, this is terracotta. It's all about using Conte crayon, which we'll talk about in an upcoming color along. But I just wanted to kind of take a moment and talk about the sepia technique and talk about what sepia is. And in my coloring handbook, volume 3, I have a tutorial in this book all about sepia. And I just want to kind of touch upon this so that before we get started, and let you just talk about what it really is. You know, the first thing that comes to mind is photographs, like from the late 19th century and the early 20th century. It's a reddish brown color. So back in the day, you know, in the early 20th century, most photographs were just in a sepia color, which it was just tones of and shades of browns. And now as we fast forward into 2022 and everyone is kind of working with their fancy iPhone, the sepia is a filter that you can apply to your photographs when you're working with an iPhone or you're working with maybe some sort of computer program like iPhoto or Photoshop. Then you can actually apply it. So it gives it a vintage appearance now. So we're looking at it like, wow, this is a vintage appearance, when way back, photography really was all about sepia. So when you're applying this technique to a coloring page, it's all about using different shades of brown. And you can see in this particular mandala here how it almost kind of gives like a wood grain effect in a way, but at the same time, it's just different shades of brown to get that sepia finish. Here also is a drawing that I had done with a sepia colored charcoal for these two birds. Again, type of thing. So it gives like reddish browns, grayish browns, yellowish browns. Sometimes there's a white Derwent drawing pencil. Derwent also makes a set of drawing pencils that are multicolored rather than just these shades. And if you take a look at the bottom of this page, I've provided a grid here with different color swatches that could be in the sepia family. Now notice this one's a little bit green. This is a little pinkish, but still they all kind of go into that whole family of sepia. This coloring handbook also comes along with a practice page, a sepia worksheet. And I think that this coloring page with all of these tiny houses is a perfect page to use for practicing the sepia technique. So let's get started on this page here this morning, which is our purpose for being here. And we are going to be coloring this mandala. Now I've sharpened my Derwent drawing pencils to a very, very sharp point. I've sharpened them in my Boss Stitch electric pencil sharpener, which is my absolute favorite. You can actually check out All of the products that I use in my Amazon influencer store, and there's a link to that store in the description of this video, and I do earn a small commission from all of the sales that are made through that link, but all of the products that I'm using during any of these color alongs are linked into my Amazon influencer store. The other thing I just want to mention is if you could just give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel and hit that notification button so that you know every time I post a new video, I would greatly appreciate it. So let's get started. So this one is the color chocolate, and I'm going to start out with this center area. Now, of course, I do have a piece of paper on the back of the page, underneath the page, just to prevent, well, we're not going to have any bleed through, right? We're not going to have any bleed through with this, but I do want to prevent any type of, like scratches on the page that's behind it, because it will pick up. So I don't want to, affect that. So that's why I put that cardstock back there. And what I'm doing here is I'm coloring this center portion with a heavier pressure and lightening up as I get to the outer portion of this shape. And I'm starting out from the middle, and I'm not worried about my hand touching anything. I mean, of course I am because of the oils in your hands, but I'm not worried about the actual medium that I'm using being affected by my hand, because when you touch this, it does not even move, which is really nice because sometimes colored pencils do. So it's kind of a waxy, and let me know in the comments, have you ever used this product before? Have you colored with this technique before, or is this something that is new and exciting to you? So I think it's a fun way. It's kind of a monochromatic style, so it could be just very many styles. We've got some we're applying few different techniques when we're doing this. We're looking at, we're working with sepia. We're blending, we're shading, as we would do with colored pencils. We are in the monochromatic family, I guess, right? Because one color or family of color. And we could be burnishing. So we could be applying all of our coloring skills to this particular coloring page today. So it's a multifaceted page. You know, it's time to just kind of apply everything you know, or everything you don't know, or maybe everything you want to learn. And if you're new to the color alongs, my color alongs are always free to watch here on YouTube. And if you want to color along with me, you can just you can get this book on Amazon. I have this book. We're working on this book, I think, until July, and then another one. This one's called Venetian Red. And I'm just going to kind of pop a heavy pressure into the middle of these. It's a very, very, very tiny line. This mandala is, I guess, on the complicated side, the intricate side. Now, what if you don't want to be intricate with this page, with this coloring page like this, right? Let's color the inside of this. What if you don't want to be like, you know, the intricate spaces really kind of bug you? Then all you have to do, let's do an example here. We've got this color here, which is called Sanguine, and I'm going to just kind of color all of this area here. Notice I'm going over the lines. So I've got that area colored there, and then I'm going to take this, oh, that's not what I want. Oops, chocolate. I'm taking chocolate next, and I am going to just hit all of these sections here with a dark, heavy pressure. Okay, so what it did was it could change the color if I had used a different color here. So it's similar to when you're coloring and layering colored pencils, but again, look, we're applying the layering technique. So far we've got a lot of techniques happening: layering, monochromatic, shading, blending, what else? Sepia, burnishing. I guess I should have announced that as a, wow, get ready for a big announcement, for a lot of things happening. This one's brown ochre, and for this one, I'm just going to color these areas here. Now, you could go back in with a finer point if you wanted to. You could certainly mix your mediums, and if you are using colored pencils today, just use some different shades of brown to create the same technique. And let me know in the comments, what are you using for this page? Are you using Derwent Drawing Pencils for this? Are you using colored pencils? What brand of colored pencils are you using? Inquiring minds want to know, right? And when this page is finished, of course, don't forget to share it on the on my Facebook coloring group, Just Color with Anne Manera. That'll be awesome. All right, so we've got this area here. And already we've kind of got some different shades of brown happening. Now we've got a lot of little doodads all around, right? So now let's go back in with this color, which is called Sepia. Oh, look at this. It's called Sepia Red. Perfect, right? I'm going to color this little section here. Oops, my point just kind of like broke off a little bit. I don't know where it went, but kind of like really like popped. Just doing these little like little triangle thingies. The other part is that let's leave some of the areas in this page with white. We don't have to color every single thing. We can still leave some areas white so that it pops. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this area here white. And if you really take a closer look, you know, with your magnifying glass, you can see that it kind of spills into this part right here, kind of like behind all of these different shapes. Now for this portion here, for these little shapes here, I'm going to use this sepia red color. And I'm going to start out with a dark, heavy pressure on one side and move over to lightening it. Again, heavy pressure on this side and then move over to lightening it. Heavy pressure on this side and then move over to lightening it. And I'm just going to continue on with this method for all of these. Now, I could pivot my page and get it so that it is all on the same side, but I decided to not do that. You got to be as lazy as you want while you're coloring, you know. It should be a, you don't want to work up a sweat while you're coloring. I don't know about you, but you want to make sure that you are relaxed, that coloring is being used for the purpose that it's being used for. And you want to make sure that it is something that is enjoyable. So, different techniques, make it fun. Adding this part here. And then again here. And then we're going to switch over to another color for this part here. So let's switch over to a different color for that portion. Now, the colors that you're placing and where you're placing it really doesn't make a difference. This one's terracotta. And I think we had terracotta in the middle, if I'm not mistaken, or did we use sanguine in the middle? Maybe it was the terracotta that I used. Nope, that was sanguine. Sanguine is a little bit lighter than terracotta. So for this one, I'm using a heavier pressure. Now, the other thing you could have done with this too is, excuse me, you could have gotten, colored the whole background. Could have colored the whole background with all one color, very light, and then you could have just gone over it. I mean, everyone has a different approach, right? So it's interesting to see what other folks are doing, right? What other people are doing, and then apply those different things. So I mean, like, what prompts you to watch it? Is it for learning, for inspiration? My hope with color alongs is that you're able to actually learn something new, learn a new technique, and expand your skill set on what you can actually color. And we have this last one right here. Now, you could be pivoting this page. I'm just not going to pivot it for video purposes, you know. Now, this one is called Sepia Red, okay? Then we've got the sanguine color again. So what I think I'm going to do is just add a little bit of sanguine onto these little doodads. Now, some of these colors, I gotta say, are softer than others. Like the lead. I don't know why. Sometimes it happens. Did you ever notice that? That some colors in different sets actually have a softer lead to them. I think that happens with paint too, like whether or not it's maybe more translucent or more opaque. I know that yellow bugs me. Yellow is always very, very, very translucent. And sometimes you have to make it more opaque with just adding a little bit of white paint to it. All right, now let's see what we've got here for another pencil. We have this brown ochre color here. I'm not going to add that in yet. I'm going to go back to Venetian red and use Venetian red on this one. And I'm going to do both sides of this shape here with Venetian red. Same pressure for the whole thing. I'm not going to worry about shading or blending or anything fancy. Just want to fill the shape. Fill the area. Fill the shape that's there. And then this section right here. I don't know why that's green right there. No, you know why that's green? Because this is an example of why you put something behind another page. So on this previous page, there was green on there. I don't know what happened. There it is. It's on there. Sometimes it's good to see somebody's mistakes, isn't it? Okay, moving on to these same shapes. Now, we want to kind of create a contrast that's behind everything, right? So we've got that white as a contrast, but we also want to think about these little spaces, these little areas. And in the middle, we use that dark chocolate color. So I want to kind of bring our eye out from the center to the outer portion of this mandala by adding that darker color as we move out. So we're going to just add this here. So we've got this part right here to just finish up these few spaces. Now I'm going to grab that chocolate like we talked about. Chocolate. And just want to kind of add some darker colors here. So these little sections here. Now you could go back in too and mix your medium and maybe add a brown marker here. You know? And then I'm going to bring the chocolate up here to this little thing. This little thing. I'm just going to call this little thing. It's thing 1, thing 2. Now, if you've never used these pencils before and this is your first time using them, you may notice resistance as you are coloring with them. And by that, I mean that you're pressing against the page and it feels like the lead is almost resisting as it's moving along. I don't know how else to describe it. What do you think? Is anybody in the comment? Can anyone comment below that's watching this? Give me let me know what you think about Derwent. How would you compare them? Derwent drawing pencils to colored pencils. Of course, Paisley, my dog in the background, has got a lot to say about it, grumbling in the background. I think she thinks maybe I'm asking her a question. Let me just help her for a minute. And then all of these little, so I'm just kind of filling all this in. So you can almost kind of hear it. I don't know if you can hear that. It's like not a squeaking, but you can almost hear the pencil as it's kind of like, I don't know if that's the word. That's the sound. This is, I guess if I really kind of like had pure, complete silence around me, you could hear that. Or if my microphone was closer. That would be like one of those videos, those ASMR videos where all you do is listen to the sound. Does anybody listen to those? The other medium that you could use for this technique would be makeup. Makeup would be a great medium to use for sepia. Now I'm going to get a different color, a contrasting color, right? We want some contrast that's happening in here. Now remember, I'm leaving all of this white that's behind it, right? So now we're going to move back out to maybe these little things right here, and I'm using some brown ochre. So we've got these little triangles that we're just filling in as we move all around. You know, I think that when you're working on a coloring page, it should just be something that you can finish in one sitting. I mean, if you're coloring something and you want it to take you longer, that's fine. But I'm always about, like, sometimes I'll do a painting and I'll walk away from it. I was working on a painting last week, actually, and I walked away from it when it was half done. And then my plan was to go back to it, like, I don't know, a week later. I'm not good at planning when I want to go back to a painting. Needless to say, that night I was up for many hours finishing it because I just said, I need to finish this. All right, let's go back with sanguine. And now for this portion here, I'm going to use sanguine on all of these colors, these shapes right here. Just finishing it up with this color here. And again, I want to leave a lot of white because I want that to pop. And I want to use a darker color, and I'm going to use chocolate again. Well, maybe not chocolate because I'm not really liking how that would actually move around. I'm going to go with Venetian red for this section here. So this is going to be my Venetian red. And these do sharpen well in a Boston pencil sharpener. However, they do have kind of a tight fit. So I know that there's a couple of pencil sharpeners out there. The name escapes me, but I know that there's one that a lot of people have. And if you have that pencil sharpener, I would love to hear about that. That you can actually change the size to fit any type of pencil. I know there's a couple of people that are in the coloring group on Facebook that have that pencil we've talked about, have that sharpener, we've talked about it. It's a weird name. I'm going to go back to this just to kind of shake things up as I'm coloring. And I'm not worried about completely filling these shapes because, again, that's kind of creating a texture. Look at that, another technique to create texture while you're coloring. Another thing you could do is you could place something behind the page that would create a texture. A lot of times I like to place masking tape on a, it's like called like a rubbing plate, but you can create your own. There's some color alongs that I've done with those. There's a tutorial in one of my coloring handbooks that talks about masking tape. This book that this page is from, Dazzling Mandalas, it is a square-shaped book, 8.5 by 8.5 inches. So all the mandalas are on the page, and they are this size, like they are in this book. But they are, the book itself is shaped as a square rather than 8.5 by 11, which is a rectangle. Just in case anyone was questioning that, right? All right, now I'm going to take my brown ochre once again and use it on these triangles. And I'm going to use a heavy, heavy pressure, the burnishing technique. When I drew this page in Procreate. So this is not a hand-drawn page, but rather a page that I drew with the aid of a computer or some form of technology and using my iPad and the Procreate app. So some of my coloring books are done that way. Most of my coloring books are drawn by hand, but some of them are actually drawn with the aid of either using my iPad with Procreate or a Wacom tablet, which was way before being able to draw on the screen itself. And instead, a Wacom tablet is more of a tablet that's in front of you, and it has a special pen. It's connected to your computer, and what you're drawing on the tablet is showing up on the screen. A lot of eye and hand coordination involved with that particular piece of equipment. This one's terracotta, and I'm going to use terracotta on these. This kind of reminds me of a nose and eyes. Wouldn't that be funny if we put a nose and eyes right there? And I'm just going to add a very heavy pressure to this. That's here, and the rest of it I'm doing what we didn't color. I am leaving white, so I think it really kind of pops. So just let's kind of recap about what sepia, or what exactly is this sepia technique. You know, we back in the day, like late 19th century, early 20th century, photographs were in the sepia tone, where it was all reddish browns and yellowish browns and grayish browns and all different tones of brown. So kind of monochromatic. And I mean, then we kind of fast forward now to the 21st century, and here we are in 2022 with all of these. I'm just gonna add a little bit of black just to give it a little bit of pop. We have all of these fancy iPhones, and we can go into the computer and we can alter our photographs, and we can change the settings and change the filters, and sepia is one of those filters that you could actually use. So you can learn more about the sepia coloring technique in my book, The Coloring Handbook, Volume 3. And this is the section about sepia. There's a whole description with some examples, some swatches, and a worksheet for you to work on. So I hope you enjoyed this color along. I hope to see you next time. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, it helps a lot. And don't forget to hit that notifications button so that you know when every time I post a new video, you'll get a notification. Hope you have a great day, and I will see you soon.